Let's get more now and speak about why campaigners have brought this case in the first place. Well, joining me is Catherine O'Brien. Now, she's from the British Pregnancy Advisory Service, which is the UK's biggest provider of abortions, and Aisling Hubert, spokesperson for the Centre for Bioethical Reform, a pro-life campaigning organisation. Thank you both for joining us on Sky News this afternoon. Catherine, if I can start with you, if I may. I'm going to give you a quote from one of the groups actually defending the laws in Northern Ireland as they stand. Now, they're saying that abortion is an act of lethal violence directed at an unborn child. Now, this case today is all about protecting the rights of women, the human rights of women. What about the rights of an unborn child? This is what groups are going to be arguing today.
Well, I think that's a very extreme fringe view. Indeed, the recent polling from the Northern Ireland Life and Time survey found that the majority of residents of Northern Ireland support abortion in the cases before the Supreme Court today. They support abortion where the baby has no chance of survival. They support abortion where a woman has been raped or sexually assaulted. So it is perfectly fine for these groups to hold these views, but it's not acceptable for those views to dominate the health care that women in Northern Ireland are able to receive.
Aisling, I'll also put to you, again, quite a difficult question. Sarah Ewart, now she's also at the Supreme Court. Now, she was forced to travel to London to have an abortion after she was told by doctors that her child would not survive. She had to go into the Yellow Pages to get advice on how, indeed, to get the best advice on how to carry out an abortion, something that would protect her. How can that be justified? How can a woman who would like to have an abortion have to go to Yellow Pages to get healthcare advice, because healthcare workers are so fearful that they could be in prison, they could be jailed for offering any kind of advice?
Well, of course, we have to understand that Sarah's case was extremely difficult, and I would say it was heartbreaking, heart-wrenching what she had to go through. But let's look again at what is abortion. Is it intentionally taking the life of an innocent human being, or is it not? Even if that child has a disability, even one like the case that Sarah's had. My auntie had a baby who was diagnosed with trisomy 13, and we'd look at that and say, you know, that was absolutely horrific that she had to go through with this pregnancy, but she kept this baby and she was able to treasure the moments that she had with this child, even though it was only a few moments, that gift that she had. So we have to look at it in the eyes, are these human beings? And if they are human beings, regardless of whether they are disabled or not, shouldn't we be alleviating their suffering rather than eliminating their very lives?
Catherine, are you seeing these unborn children as human beings? Are they being taken into consideration here?
You know, I think that the women who have abortions on grounds of fetal anomaly, they are doing so because they care very much for the pregnancy that they are carrying. They are ending that pregnancy because they believe it is the kindest thing to do for their unborn child. And I think we must absolutely respect women's wishes with regards to that.
And you did mention this earlier. What about the cases where women have been raped, have been victim of sexual assault, and have fallen pregnant by that? Again, what about the right of the child there who could be completely normal, no disability whatsoever?
I think the idea that we would force a woman to continue a pregnancy against her wishes, a pregnancy conceived in rape, is simply inhumane, it's cruel. And we can debate as to where life begins and the status of an unborn child. We cannot debate the status of that woman who is a victim of a crime. Her trauma should not be compounded by being forced to continue that pregnancy and then give birth to a child.
I mean, these victims of crime, Aisling, they cannot be offered any kind of healthcare advice in regards to a pregnancy because healthcare workers are fearful they could be jailed. That's not right, surely.
Well, let's look at both of these crimes. In the situation of rape, there are if the woman ends up being pregnant, there are 3 people involved in that. There's the rapist, there's the pregnant woman, and there's the baby as well. And the rapist should be locked up for his crime and suffer the worst penalty under the law, undoubtedly. But should we give that child the worse penalty than the rapist? Should we, in some abortion procedures, surgical ones, decapitate them, dismember them, and literally disembowel them because of their father's crime? Because that is the reality of abortion. It's not a kind thing to do. It's not a gentle suction. It is an act of violence which dismembers a living, whole, and alive human being. Is this the best that we have to offer women? Shouldn't we be providing women who have been through rape with counselling, care, support, real health care, real support, instead of saying, you know what, the best that we have for you is to kill your unborn child? That isn't the kind of society that I think is, that's not what I think is acceptable in society.
Catherine, what's your response to that?
Well, I think what we need to do here is recognise the wishes of women. We have women talking today about their experiences. We have very brave women talking about receiving scans at 20 weeks, finding out their baby's not going to be able to survive pregnancy, and then having to continue that pregnancy for a further 14 weeks and give birth to a stillborn baby. And while for some women that is what they might decide to do, for others that is incredibly traumatic, and we should respect their wishes, and we should listen to the voices of women and ensure that our law accurately reflects those wishes and their healthcare needs.
I mean, Aisling, let's be honest, let's face it. When I was talking about Sarah Hewitt, as I said, she did carry out an abortion, even though it's illegal in Northern Ireland. She travelled to the UK to do it. Abortions are happening, regardless of this law. Apparently, last year alone, around more than 700 women travelled to have an abortion from Northern Ireland. So it is happening. Why should not the law change then?
I think Northern Ireland, they recognise that they want to protect the most fundamental of human rights. And the Northern Irish Assembly consider the right to life the first and foremost one that they must protect. And so, of course, we in England and in the rest of the UK should respect their wishes to protect their unborn citizens from abortion and not discriminate against the unborn based on whether they have a disability or not. Because doctors, at the end of the day, they're not God. They don't really know how long anyone's life is going to be. So to make a judgment, a life and death decision based on not hard-based evidence it's very scary, actually. So we need to protect the right to life above all other rights.
OK, Aisling and Catherine, good talking to you both. Thank you.